Today, we're going to explore a scenario that many people have found scary: school at night. Get ready to discover 7 horror stories involving dark corridors, silent rooms, and inexplicable events that only seem to happen when everyone has left. Let's delve into reports from guards, students, and staff who had chilling experiences inside schools after dark. So sit back, turn off the lights if you dare, and let this spooky journey begin. Oh, and before anything strange happens, take the opportunity to subscribe to the channel, activate the bell, and leave your like. This really helps the channel and ensures you don't miss out on any terrifying content like this. Let's go. The Night Janitor. The case of the group of St. Mary's High School students was documented by Manchester Police as one of the most disturbing incidents involving educational institutions in the city's recent history. The events of that night were reconstructed from police records, survivors' statements, and security camera footage. On the night of October 14th, 7 seniors, Emily, Josh, Priya, Ben, Chloe, Daniel, and Zoe, stayed at the school to organize the prom. The event, scheduled for the weekend, required decoration and equipment assembly in the gym. The caretaker, Mr. Howard, a soft-spoken, middle-aged man with a discreet manner, was responsible for supervising the group until 10 p.m. He always seemed harmless, even friendly, Emily reported. He helped with the boxes, made dry jokes, but it never went beyond that. At around 9:30 p.m., a strong storm hit the city, knocking down trees and causing power outages in several neighborhoods. The group decided to finish the work early, but when they tried to leave, they discovered that all the external doors were locked. Cell phones had no signal, and the Secretariat's landline was silent. "We thought it was just an electrical problem," Ben said. Mr. Howard disappeared shortly after the power went out. "It made us uncomfortable, but we thought he had gone to try to resolve the power issue." While they were looking for a way out, Zoe found a box of old newspaper clippings in the maintenance closet. The headlines talked about disappearances of teenagers in the 90s, all in neighboring towns. In each clipping there were handwritten notes, dates, times, names of schools. "That's when we realized it wasn't a coincidence," Priya explained. "Mr. Howard wasn't just weird, he had something to hide." Shortly after, they heard heavy footsteps echoing through the empty corridors. The group split up trying to find another way out, but they soon realized they were being hunted. The janitor appeared and disappeared in the hallways, using his knowledge of the building to anticipate students' movements. He cut off emergency power and blocked escape routes, forcing the group to hide in classrooms, laboratories, and even the school's attic. "He knew exactly where we were," Chloe reported. "At one point we heard his voice over the PA system. 'You're not getting out of here. Nobody ever has.'" While looking for a way to escape, Daniel found an old janitor's badge with another name, Arthur Hensley. A quick search of the newspapers revealed that Arthur had been wanted on suspicion of involvement in teenage kidnappings, but had never been captured. The group realized that Janitor Howard was actually Arthur Hensley, living under an assumed identity for over 20 years. He had infiltrated the school and over the years kept a low profile, waiting for the right moment to act again. Tensions came to a head when Josh was captured trying to reach the gym. The janitor trapped him in a maintenance room, leaving clues to the others that he would be next. Using a combination of courage and quick thinking, Emily and Ben managed to access the school's server room, where they manually activated the fire alarm, the only way to trigger an external response. The sound of the alarm confused the caretaker, giving the group the opportunity to free Josh and run to the main entrance, where they managed to break down an emergency door using a fire extinguisher. Police arrived minutes later, finding the caretaker trying to escape through the back. He was arrested after a brief chase, and investigations confirmed his true identity and connection to the old disappearances. For Emily and her friends, the night left deep scars. "The scariest thing," she concluded, "was realizing that we lived every day, with someone capable of terrible things. He knew everything about the school, about us, and was just waiting for the right chance. The case has led to a complete review of safety protocols in Manchester schools, with new requirements for staff background checks and emergency evacuation systems. And for the thousands of students who attend seemingly safe schools, the story of the night janitor serves as a grim reminder that sometimes the greatest danger lies where you least expect it. In the familiar hallways, behind a discreet smile and a set of keys. The locked room, the case of the Liceo Galileo Galilei teachers, was documented by the Turin police as one of the most disturbing incidents involving kidnappings in educational institutions in the recent history of northern Italy. The events of that night were reconstructed from victim testimonies, police records, and security camera footage. On the night of March 18th, 4 teachers, Laura Bianchi, literature, Paolo Rossi, mathematics, Marta De Luca, art, and Giovanni Ferri, physics, stayed at the school to supervise students in an astronomy project. At around 9 p.m., after the event, the students were released, but the teachers remained to organize the material and wait for the person responsible for cleaning, who never showed up. As they walked down the 3rd-floor hallway, Laura noticed a light burning under the door to room 312, which had been officially deactivated since renovation 2 years earlier. "I always thought it was strange that the room was never reopened, but I assumed it was for budget reasons," Laura reported. As they approached, they heard a muffled sound, as if someone was trying to speak through a gag. Paolo knocked on the door, but there was no answer. They decided to look for the janitor, but they couldn't find him anywhere. Marta suggested calling the police, but their cell phones had no signal. Something unusual in the building, which always had good coverage. As they tried to decide what to do, the lights in the hallway flickered and went out. The emergency system activated dim lights and automatically locked all exterior doors, a security protocol activated by electrical failure. "That's when we heard desperate knocking coming from room 312, said Giovanni. With the help of an iron bar from the physics laboratory, they managed to break down the door. Inside the room, they found 2 teenagers tied and gagged, visibly traumatized. One of them, Marco, was a student at the school and had been missing for 3 days. The other, Luca, was from a neighboring school and had disappeared a week before. They were both dirty, dehydrated, and too scared to speak as they tried to free the boys. They heard heavy footsteps in the hallway. The group hid behind closets, watching through the doorway as a tall man, wearing a janitor's uniform, slowly passed by, shining a flashlight into the hallway. He murmured to himself, as if he were counting, Marta reported. He seemed to know exactly how many people were in the building. The group realized that the kidnapper was still inside the school and that with the doors electronically locked, they were trapped with him. Laura, remaining calm, instructed Paolo to look for another way out, while she and Marta took care of the boys. Paolo and Giovanni tried to access the security system control panel, but discovered that the cables had been cut and the panel was locked with an industrial padlock. Meanwhile, the kidnapper returned to room 312, finding it empty. Furious, he began searching the nearby rooms. The group split up. Laura and Marta took the boys to the science laboratory, where they improvised a barricade. Paolo and Giovanni looked for tools to try to open a side window. The suspense increased when the kidnapper, realizing that his victims had escaped, began calling teachers by name, using the school's public address system. "There's no point running. You're not getting out of here." His voice echoed through the empty hallways. As they tried to keep the boys calm, Laura recognized the man's voice. It was Enrico, the night janitor, a long-time and apparently harmless employee. The police, alerted by a silent alarm activated at the entrance, arrived at the scene around 40 minutes later, but had difficulty accessing the building due to the sabotage security system. In the laboratory, the group heard the sound of glass breaking. Paolo and Giovanni had managed to open a side window. Carefully, everyone escaped to the inner courtyard, where they were found by the police. The kidnapper was arrested minutes later, trying to escape through the back. In the janitor's closet, police found diaries detailing months of observation of students and teachers, records of schedules and routines, as well as keys to rooms and lockers throughout the school. It turned out that Enrico had kidnapped other young people in previous years, keeping them hidden in disused rooms until he felt safe to remove them from the premises. For Lara, Paolo, Marta, and Giovanni, the experience left deep marks. The most disturbing thing, reflected Laura, was realizing that someone we cross paths with every day was capable of such cruelty, and that it all happened before our eyes, in a place that should have been safe. The case led to a review of security protocols in Italian schools, with mandatory inspections of disabled areas and improved monitoring systems for outsourced employees. And for the Turin community, the story of the locked room has become a grim reminder that behind closed doors, unimaginable secrets and dangers can lurk, and that constant vigilance is the only defense against predators masquerading as ordinary workers. The Watcher Jamie Carter's case was documented by West Yorkshire Police as one of the most disturbing incidents involving surveillance and school crime in the region's recent history. The events of that week were reconstructed from testimonies, digital records, and security camera images. Jamie, 17, was a final-year student at Leeds Central School. On the night of January 22nd, he stayed late at school to study for his final exams. The building was nearly empty except for the night security guard, Mr. Collins, a middle-aged man known for his discretion and punctuality. Around 9 p.m., Jamie noticed something strange. While studying in the library, he felt watched. When he looked up, he noticed a discreet red light blinking on a shelf. Approaching, he found a micro camera cleverly hidden among the books. My first thought was that it was part of the security system, Jamie reported, but the position was strange, pointing directly at the table where I was sitting. Intrigued, Jamie started looking for more cameras and found 2 others. One behind the clock in the computer room and another inside a smoke detector in the hallway. All were positioned to capture images of areas where students tended to be alone at night. Suspicious, Jamie accessed one of the school's computers and, using basic computer skills, managed to identify the IP address where the images were being transmitted. The destination was a local server, accessible only by password. As he tried to decipher the entrance, he heard heavy footsteps in the hallway. Mr. Collins appeared in the doorway, smiling tightly. "It's late, Jamie. Time to go home," he said. Watching the computer closely, Jamie claimed to be finishing work and, as soon as the security guard left, he made copies of the system's temporary files. When analyzing them, he found dozens of videos recorded at night, always focusing on students who stayed late, including himself, on different dates. Even more disturbing, he noticed that some videos were marked with codes and dates, and others had file names like selected or approved. In one of them, there was another student, Ethan, who had mysteriously disappeared 2 months earlier. With his heart racing, Jamie decided to leave immediately. On the way out, he noticed that all the external doors were electronically locked. Mr. Collins, now without hiding his hostility, appeared in the corridor, blocking the way. "You saw more than you should have, Jamie," the security guard said, his voice low and menacing. "Some students don't know when to leave. Others are special." Jamie tried to remain calm, claiming that he didn't understand anything he saw. Collins, however, led him to the security room, where Jamie noticed a panel with dozens of monitors transmitting images from different parts of the school. including areas not covered by the official surveillance system. In the office, Collins revealed his secret. For years, he had been targeting lonely students, monitoring their habits and vulnerabilities. Those selected were invited to off-campus games, supposedly challenges of courage and endurance. In fact, they were. Sickening hunts in abandoned industrial areas on the outskirts of Leeds, where Collins and accomplices stalked their victims, who were rarely seen again. "You're smart, Jamie. You could do well. But right now I have no choice," Collins threatened, grabbing a metal bat. Jamie, desperate, used the paint spray he carried in his backpack to momentarily blind the security guard and fled through the corridors. He remembered a little used emergency exit that could be unlocked manually from the inside. He managed to escape the building and ran to a nearby police station, where he handed over the flash drive with the recordings. The investigation revealed the horror. Collins had installed clandestine cameras throughout the school, recording vulnerable students and selecting victims for his games. The disappearance of Ethan and 2 other students, previously considered runaways, has been reopened as a homicide case. Several accomplices were arrested. For Jamie, the experience changed his life. The scariest thing, he reflected, was realizing that someone with full access to the school, responsible for our security, was using the system itself to hunt us down. He knew everything about us, schedules, habits, fears. We were completely exposed. The case led to a rigorous review of security protocols in schools across the UK, with audits of surveillance systems and oversight of staff access to sensitive areas. And for students who stay up late in the silent school hallways, the story of the Watcher serves as a grim reminder that sometimes the greatest danger isn't just outside the gates, but watches silently from within. What's up, guys? School night horror stories are chilling even now, aren't they? If you're enjoying these scary stories, take the opportunity to take a quick break, subscribe to the channel, and leave your like. This really helps the channel grow and motivates me to continue bringing you more chilling content. Now, shall we go back to the next stories? There's still a lot of fear ahead. 4. The Last Arrest. The case of the overnight detention at St. George's Academy was documented by Merseyside Police as one of the most disturbing episodes involving school-based disappearances in recent UK history. The events of that night were reconstructed from survivors' statements, internal camera recordings, and forensic evidence. On Friday, November 15th, 7 students were summoned to overnight detention following incidents of indiscipline. The group was varied. Sophie, a brilliant but rebellious student. Liam, repeatedly involved in fights. Yasmin, always late. Tom, known for cheating on tests. Ben, introvert. Chloe, unmotivated. And Marcus, who rarely attended classes. Supervision was the responsibility of teacher Alan Foster, a veteran of the school, respected for his strict stance and old-fashioned methods. The detention began at 6 p.m. in a room in the oldest block of the school, isolated from the other buildings. Foster collected students' cell phones, claiming it was school policy, and locked the door. The first few hours were monotonous, with writing tasks and forced silence. The atmosphere was tense, but nothing indicated the horror that was to come. Around 8 p.m., the power supply to the block fluctuated and went out. Foster left to check the circuit breaker, leaving the students alone. 10 minutes later, Ben asked to go to the bathroom and did not return. Foster returned, claiming to have found no problems, and said that Ben had been released for bad behavior, something strange, as the door remained locked. Soon after, Tom asked for water. Foster followed him into the hallway. Time passed, and only Foster returned, saying that Tom had been called by management. The students became suspicious, but Foster remained calm, suggesting they were seeing problems where there were none. The tension increased when Chloe noticed red stains on the cuff of Foster's shirt, Sophie, restless, tried to open the door, but discovered that it was locked from the outside. The teacher, now visibly angry, warned them not to test your patience. Yasmin, in a panic, knocked on the door and screamed for help. Foster, in a cold voice, said, "No one will listen. To you. No one ever listens to hopeless cases." He then revealed, in a disturbingly calm way, that for years he had been selecting students he considered without a future to correct the school's direction, and that no one would miss them. As Foster left again, Sophie and Liam managed to unlock a side window using a metal ruler. In the hallway, they heard muffled screams coming from a nearby room. Forcing open the door, they found Tom and Ben bound, gagged and in shock, but alive. The group hid in a maintenance room, where they found Foster's old records, diaries detailing observations about students, lists of missing cases, and news clippings of unsolved disappearances in the region, always involving troubled students. Foster, noticing the escape, activated the fire alarm to confuse the students and blocked the main exits. Using service passages and maintenance tunnels, which he knew from being a former employee, he tried to trap the group. Sophie, using the records found, realized that Foster had committed similar crimes at other schools before arriving at St. George's, always changing his identity after each incident. She and Liam managed to access the principal's office, where they activated the external alarm system, triggering an alert to the security center. Police arrived minutes later, finding Foster trying to escape out the back, armed with a wrench. He was arrested after brief resistance. The searches revealed a secret room in the basement of the old block, equipped with handcuffs, syringes, and detailed records of his victims. Of the 7 students, all survived physically, but the trauma was profound. The most terrifying thing, Sophie reported, was realizing we were at the mercy of someone our parents and teachers trusted. He had been watching us for months, waiting for the right moment to act. The case led to a national review of school detention protocols, with a ban on individual supervision and requirements for cameras and open communication with guardians. For the Liverpool community, the story of the last arrest became a grim warning. True danger sometimes hides behind a respected authority, ready to judge and eliminate those it considers lost. The Underground. The case of the Lycée Claude Monet students was documented by the French National Police as one of the most disturbing incidents involving schools in the country's recent history. The events of that afternoon were reconstructed from student testimonies, forensic evidence, and the institution's historical records. Luc, Elodie, Antoine, and Amélie, members of the school's history club, decided to investigate rumors about an ancient, forgotten basement beneath the main building. The school, founded in 1890, had undergone renovations in the 1970s after a fire, and students suspected that old areas had been sealed off without official registration. "We found a loose metal plate on the floor of the archive," reported Elodie. "It covered a narrow staircase that led to an underground corridor. It looked untouched for decades. With cell phone flashlights, they went underground. The air was thick, smelling of mold and damp earth. On the walls, they found old graffiti, names crossed out with dates from the 1970s, phrases like 'help' and 'he is here.' Antoine noticed something shiny on the floor, a necklace with a St. Christopher medal corroded by time. On the back, Marie D. 1972 was engraved. "I looked that name up later," said Antoine. "She was a student who disappeared during the 1972 fire. Her body was never found." The group advanced to a rotting wooden door. When they forced it, they found a room with a desk covered in dust, broken chairs, and in a corner a pile of backpacks and old uniforms. "There were diaries, letters, and photos from students," said Amélie. "All disappeared between 1970 and 1980. Someone collected their belongings. While leafing through a diary, they heard a metallic creak. The basement door closed with a bang. They ran to escape, but the lock was stuck. That's when they noticed modern cameras hidden between the ceiling beams, some still with red lights flashing. "Someone was watching us in real time," Luke said. "It was a new system, not from the time of reforms." The students tried to call the police, but the signal was blocked. As they looked for another exit, they heard slow footsteps coming down the stairs. They recognized the silhouette of Monsieur Dubois, the school's caretaker for more than 40 years, carrying a sledgehammer. "You shouldn't have come here," he said, raising the tool. "The underground holds secrets that no one should see." The group ran through narrow tunnels, following red paint marks on the walls, possibly made by previous victims. Dubois pursued them, knowing every detour. In a room with iron bars, they found bones under plastic sheets and a blackboard with names crossed out: Marie, 1972, June, 1975, Anaïs, 1979, and empty spaces for new names. "He was completing a list," whispered Elodie, panicked. Antoine used an iron bar to break through a ventilation grill, leading to a tunnel that led to the school garden. As they fled, Dubois was struck by a rotten beam that fell from the ceiling, allowing them to reach the surface and alert authorities. The investigation revealed the terrifying truth. Dubois, hired after the 1972 fire, used the chaos to kidnap students, keeping them underground before murdering them. The fire had been set by him to cover up his first crime. In the following decades, he selected victims who questioned too much or explored restricted areas, using their knowledge from school to erase evidence. "Underground, we found 11 bodies," said the chief detective, "and blank spaces on the board suggest he planned to continue." For the students, the experience was traumatic. The scariest thing, Amélie reflected, was realizing he was there the whole time, fixing our desks, smiling in the hallway, while keeping horrible secrets beneath our feet. The case led to mandatory inspection of basements in historic schools in France, with demolition of undocumented structures. And for the students of Lyon, the story of Underground serves as a morbid warning. Sometimes the oldest dangers are not buried, they are waiting patiently in the shadows of places we thought were safe. Monsieur Dubois, now in prison, awaits trial for multiple murders. The Lycée Claude Monet has closed, and a memorial will be built on the site in honor of the victims, a silent reminder that real monsters can inhabit the halls we walk through every day. The band rehearsal. The St. Andrew's Academy School band case has been documented by Glasgow police as one of the most disturbing incidents involving educational institutions in the city's recent history. The events of that night were reconstructed from student statements, security camera footage, and school records. On the evening of February 17th, 8 members of the band, Sophie, clarinet, Liam, trumpet, Rachel, flute, Mark, drums, Emily, violin, Alex, bass, Hannah, saxophone, and Tom, guitar, remained at the school for an extra rehearsal in preparation for a national competition. The teacher in charge, Mr. McGregor, left at around 8:30 p.m., leaving the students with the key to the music room and instructions to lock everything up at the end. At around 9 p.m., Rachel realized that her flute was out of tune, despite having been checked before rehearsal. Alex complained that the bass strings were loose. Mark noticed that the cymbals on the drums were loose. Initially, they thought it was coincidence or carelessness, but it soon became evident that all the instruments had been sabotaged. Screws loosened, reeds changed, strings cut, and mouthpieces clogged. It was strange because no one but us had access to the room, Sophie reported, and the door was locked when we arrived. While they were trying to fix the instruments, Tom went out to get a screwdriver from the maintenance room. 10 minutes later, he had not returned. The group started looking for him, but only found his cell phone in the hallway with a cracked screen. Tensions rose when they tried to leave the building and discovered that all the emergency doors were locked from the inside. The alarm system had been deactivated and the cell phones, except Sophie's, had no signal. "That's when we realized we were trapped," Liam said, "and that someone had planned it." As they looked for another exit, they heard heavy footsteps echoing through the empty hallways and the sound of metal dragging on the floor. The group hid in the instrument room, where they found a message written with tape on the mirror. "Music is silence between screams." Rachel, frightened, remembered an old story about a former school employee, Mr. Wallace, who was fired years earlier after a never-cleared incident involving missing students. They said he knew every corner of the school and had copies of all the keys, Emily explained. Shortly after, the lights began to flicker. The group heard the sound of a door being unlocked, and then a gruff voice echoed over the sound system. "Your last song begins now. Only one will come out to tell the story." Desperate, the students tried to break into a window, but iron bars had been installed outside. Mark suggested using the drumsticks to pick the lock on a side door, while Sophie and Hannah looked for Tom. In the hallway, they found drag marks and drops of blood leading to the school's basement, a normally off-limits area. In the basement, the group found Tom bound and gagged, but alive. As they freed him, they heard the iron door close behind them. The emergency light revealed the attacker's face, Wallace himself, older but recognizable. He held a wrench and wore his old school uniform. "You never respected music," he muttered, stepping forward. "Now you will learn true silence." Using instruments as improvised weapons, the students managed to defend themselves. Sophie hit Wallace with the music stand, while Mark and Alex forced open the basement door. The group fled through the maintenance tunnels, guided by Tom, who remembered an old access to the courtyard. When they emerged into the courtyard, they activated the fire alarm, finally attracting the attention of neighbors and the police. Wallace was found unconscious in the basement, surrounded by evidence of other crimes, stolen instruments, belongings of missing students, and diaries detailing his plans to purify the band. For Sophie and her colleagues, the experience left deep scars. The scariest thing, she reflected, was realizing that someone who knew the school and music so well could use that to turn us into prey. He planned every detail, waiting for the right moment to strike. The case led to a complete review of security protocols in Glasgow schools, with inspection of restricted areas and strict control of access to keys and alarm systems. And for the thousands of students who rehearse at night in seemingly safe schools, the story of band rehearsal serves as a grim reminder that sometimes the true danger is not outside, but lurking in the familiar hallways, waiting for one last performance. The empty courtyard, the case of the group of students from St. Patrick's Secondary School, was documented by the Garda Síochána as one of the scariest episodes of school stalking in recent Irish history. The events of that night were reconstructed based on testimonies from survivors, images from security cameras, and digital records from the cell phones of those involved. On Friday, April 19th, 5 friends, Connor, Aidan, Siobhan, Liam and Emma, decided to meet up at night in the schoolyard to record a viral video of challenges and pranks. It was an unofficial tradition among senior students, breaking into school after work, filming games and posting them on social media. The group knew that the alarm system was old and that the caretaker, Mr. Flanagan, only made rounds until 10 p.m. It was supposed to be just fun, reported Siobhan. We had flashlights, charged cell phones, and even masks for the scare scenes. Nobody expected it to turn into a nightmare. They entered through a window in the locker room, already free from other invasions, and went straight to the central courtyard. They started filming challenges. Who could cross the football field blindfolded? Who had the courage to ring the chapel bell at midnight? They laughed, screamed, and recorded everything without realizing they were being watched. At around 11:30, p.m., while filming a scene near the stands, Connor noticed a shadow between the trees in the garden. "I thought it was one of the boys playing a prank," he said. "But the figure was tall, thin, and didn't respond when I called." Aiden, always skeptical, went there with the flashlight. He found no one, but noticed fresh footprints in the damp earth. The group laughed nervously and continued recording, but the atmosphere was already different. Minutes later, Emma realized that her cell phone was missing. They searched the courtyard and found him on the concrete bench, recording in video mode. When watching, they saw shaky images of the group, but in the background, a figure stood still, motionless, watching them. "It was like I was waiting for something," Emma recalled. "The feeling was of being hunted." They decided to end the video and leave, but when they approached the locker room, they found the window through which they entered locked from the outside. With wire, they tried other exits, but they were all blocked. The alarm system, which was supposed to be inactive, began emitting a low, steady beeping sound, as if someone had reactivated it remotely. It was then that they heard the voice echoing through the courtyard, amplified by the school's public address system. "Do you think you're funny? Do you think you can barge in and laugh at the school that destroyed my life?" The group froze. The voice was familiar, but distorted. Liam recognized it. It was from Sean Murphy, a former student expelled 2 years earlier after a violent incident during a fight on the playground. Sean has since disappeared from town, but rumors said he was prowling the school at night, seeking revenge on classmates and teachers who testified against him. The courtyard lights began to flicker. Doors slammed on their own, and the sounds of footsteps echoed through the empty hallways. The group ran to the library, locking themselves inside. Through the window, they saw Sean walking across the courtyard, holding an iron bar. He dragged the bar on the floor, producing a metallic sound that made everyone's nerves fray. "He knew where we were," Connor said. "He spoke our names over the loudspeaker, described our clothes, our fears. It was as if he had studied each one of us." Sean began throwing rocks at the library windows, shouting threats and recalling humiliating details from each student's past. "You laughed at me. Now I'm the one laughing at you." Emma, desperate, tried to call the police, but the signal was blocked. Siobhan suggested using the internal computer system to send an emergency email to the board, as the school's Wi-Fi network was still active. While Connor and Liam distracted Sean by shouting from the other side of the library, Emma managed to access the computer and send the message. The group tried to escape through the back door of the kitchen, but Sean was already waiting for them. There, he attacked Liam with the iron bar, wounding him in the shoulder. The others managed to drag Liam back inside and barricaded the door with tables and chairs. The situation became unsustainable. Sean, increasingly aggressive, began setting fire to trash cans outside, trying to force the students out through the fire or smoke. The group, suffocated and panicked, decided to risk everything. Break down the gym's side door, which led to the parking lot. Using a dumbbell bar, they were able to force the lock. They ran through the dark parking lot, hearing Sean close behind, shouting that no one would get away with it. It was at that moment that they heard police sirens. Emma's email had been received, and the board called the Garda. Sean tried to escape, but was captured at the back of the school after a brief chase. During interrogation, he confessed to having planned the night for weeks, studying the caretaker's schedule, manipulating the alarm, and blocking the exits. He said he wanted to teach a lesson to everyone who had laughed at him, and that he planned to record everything on video to post on social media. For Connor, Siobhan, Emma, Liam, and Aiden, the night left deep scars. The scariest thing, Siobhan reflected, was realizing that our harmless prank touched the worst side of someone we knew. He studied us, stalked us, and almost got what he wanted. The case led to a complete review of security protocols in Dublin schools, with increased nighttime surveillance, blocking access after hours, and monitoring former students with violent histories. And for the thousands of young people who see school as a stage for challenges and games, the story of Empty Courtyard serves as a dark reminder that sometimes the past doesn't just watch, it waits patiently for the moment to take revenge. And so we come to the end of our 7 horror stories involving school at night. So which one scared you the most? Will any make you think twice about walking down a dark hallway? Tell us in the comments which one was your favorite. If you enjoyed this dive into the dark side of schools, don't forget to leave a like. This really helps the channel grow and encourages me to bring you more scary stories. And if you are not yet registered, take the opportunity now to sign up and activate the bell.